Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I normally do gaming videos of me recording, yeah, gameplay. Um, for the purpose of today, well, I kind of don't enjoy playing games too much when it's being recorded when I'm recording it because it feels like I'm not really enjoying it. And my personality tends to be the type that I get engaged in the story, so I'm not very reactive and animated in my videos, which a lot of people prefer an animated YouTuber when it comes to things like gaming and stuff like that. So I tend to lead more on the side of let's discuss some of the different things. I have a lot of passions, a lot of things that I'm interested in. So that may be something that I go down and experiment with. I'll still do some gaming stuff, um, depending on like games that I want to play that I want to enjoy and I can just record. But it might be a little less just because um, I want to make sure I'm creating good content that people can enjoy. That said, the discussion of this today's video is inclusivity within gaming. Now that could mean having more women involved in gaming. That could mean the characters within gaming itself, having different types of diverse characters within gaming. um, and the question is there a problem that exists within gaming that makes it non-inclusive? The question is no. Now hear me out. There's a lot of discussion about women within gaming, women developers and things of that nature. um, I do think that some cultures need to shift a little bit and people need to be more understanding towards women. However, I don't think that it is a problem with the amount of women within these industries. Um, women are there's no women are not applying for jobs as game developer as much as men. Let's just be honest. So that said, if there are more women applying for jobs within game development, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. If it was 50-50, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the truth is, companies cannot hire people that don't apply for a job. All right. So that said, um, but if there are any issues with hiring women who are applying, um, and those women being talented are being are not getting the job, not because the male counterpart is more talented, but because it's a male, then that is an issue. As of now, I've not heard of any issues of that nature. I've not seen any issues of the women that are within gaming. I haven't heard any stories about it. If there are stories about it, please do let me know. That said, coming to the characters, I don't like the fact that a lot of these game companies are changing established characters in an effort to patronize certain groups of people. I don't agree with that at all. I don't think that we need to have Captain America, for example, become a black man and that be a replacement to the original Captain America. I think we can have a white Captain America, we can have a black Captain America, just like we can have a white Green Lantern and a black Green Lantern. The idea is not like we're not taking a story and rewriting it, and the only thing we're rewriting is the fact that the character is black, or the fact that the character is trans, or the fact that the character is gay or bi, or it doesn't, or straight. It doesn't, like, we shouldn't be doing that at all. That should not be in a conversation. That should not be something that we're trying to accomplish. If we want to create a better world of representation within gaming, we have to create a better world of representation within gaming. You can't take something that already exists and change it and think that's going to make people feel represented. That just makes them, especially if these people are also fans of the characters, like I don't need to see um, Marvel come out and say, well, you know, every single thing that you've seen from our movies of Captain America, all of that still stands, except now I want you to imagine Captain America being black. No. If we are going to create a new Captain America and make him black, he needs to have his own story, he needs to have his own identity, and it needs to make sense. I we and as a black man, I'm just gonna speak as a black man. We don't like to feel that we're in a position because of the color of our skin. And I imagine it's the same thing if for LGBTQ plus community members that don't want to be represented in a way that isn't authentic and isn't real and doesn't really tell the story that they're going through. Don't make changes to what already exists. But this also speaks to a problem of creativity within gaming now, where, and although I do appreciate the fact that we're getting a lot of remakes and things of that nature, and I'm not speaking to that specifically, but I'm also speaking to this propensity to change a narrative that's already been established, that has already been appreciated by so many people, in like a situation like The Last of Us. And this issue isn't even, and I forgot the character's name, the trans character's name, but this isn't even specific to that. The idea of changing something that's already existed to fit something doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help anything. Changing how characters are and how characters interact with each other and how everything that's been established in a character, it undoes every single thing that you've established, number one, and isn't really good storytelling. I am a big fan of, well, I used to be a big fan of WWE, but I'm a big fan of wrestling in general. And one of my problems with WWE has always been that, not even that it's real, it's whether it's real or not, like none of that, is the fact that things happen, number one, for no reason, and number two, they end up being forgotten really quickly. A character doesn't, in that kind of system in WWE, doesn't start at one place and then you see the evolution of that character to where you add a bunch of different layers and things like that as they progress. It's always just a random change that happens suddenly, and then everything that was there before is no longer there, and we're just supposed to pretend that that's normal and that's okay. That is my main problem, and which is why I don't watch WWE today, because I feel like I'm investing my time in something that isn't going to be there, in something that's going to change suddenly at the drop of a hat. So that's the same thing within gaming. You can't say that Joel, as a character, is very careful, very observant, so he's able to see things that others may not be able to see. And now suddenly he can't do that. And it's just too much of a shift, a sudden shift, for characters to suddenly become something they're not. It'd be one thing if the trait is something that is negative, and so you have a case where a character grows and changes the perspective on certain things and become more open to others. That I understand. That's growth, but it isn't growth to be here and then all of a sudden you're here. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't do anything for the story. Hi, just taking a quick break. Would like to ask that you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. I mean, you've made it this far, so clearly the topic we're discussing is very interesting to you. So I appreciate it if you just give me a subscribe, turn notifications on, and look forward to more videos like this. Thank you very much. So, is there really a problem with inclusivity within gaming? No, there is not a problem. The problem is that a lot of the people who are creating these games, and not even the speak on the hiring, I still believe that if more women applied and had the qualifications to be in these positions within these companies, it will happen. I don't believe anybody wants to be hired to a job just based on their ethnicity, their gender, or their sexual orientation. We don't want to be labeled based on these things. We want to be our individual because that's who we are. And our effort in our fields or our goals or our dreams, we want them to be appreciated because we worked hard to get to where we are, and not because of something we don't have control over. Okay, that said, I think there's a problem with game developers not having the propensity to create stories that are able to account for these situations. I do think that in a lot of these cases, in cases like The Last of Us Part 2, there needs to be a conversation with people who have experienced these situations. There needs to be a dialogue with people who come from these types of backgrounds. I think, and this is a perfect case with Ghost of Tsushima, where you have a team of developers that are not Japanese, but were able to immerse themselves in a culture and understand a culture in a way that really, really represents that specific culture, in a way where the people who belong to said culture also appreciate that. I think that's phenomenal. I think that should be celebrated. I think that should be praised. I think we need to see a lot more of that kind of stuff within gaming. I think we need to have a lot more people talk to these people that they're creating characters about, creating stories around, not and tell an authentic story that makes sense, because the goal should be to allow people to understand these different perspectives. So if you're not being authentic to those different perspectives, then obviously you're not doing justice. But also, if we're talking about a fantasy world, I do believe that within a fantasy aspect of creating something that isn't based on reality, that these things we're trying to be inclusive about need to become the norm. What I mean is, if we're talking about aliens from outer space, it doesn't matter whether a character is straight, gay, trans. Like that is not a main part of this story. It shouldn't be a main part of this story, in the sense of it shouldn't be about pushing an agenda. It should just be something that exists in that world, if that makes sense. So if we're talking about a futuristic time where all of these things exist, and people can be whoever they want to be and whatever they want to be, if we're talking about that specifically, we can't come out and say, oh, well, that there's a lot of struggle within the trans community. Yes, in real life there is, but if we're talking about a fictional world where these beliefs, the belief system in that world is you can be who you want to be, you can be what you want to be, something like what CD Projekt Red is doing with Cyberpunk 2077. If I'm playing that game and I feel like even though we live in a game, even though it's in a time where people can be whatever and whoever they want to be, if I'm playing it and I feel like, oh, they're pushing a message for, you know, the rights of this group or the rights of that group or anything of that nature, and it doesn't make sense in the context of the story, then that's going to take me out of the story. That does not make sense. That does not fit in with the world. People within gaming need to stop trying to force a puzzle piece into a puzzle that doesn't belong in. Okay, it's not going to fit. If it makes sense, by all means, do it. Um, but if it doesn't make sense, don't change something that's already been established. Create something new, create something that represents people, create something that is going to allow other people with outside of these communities to look at it and say, wow, this is really cool, this is really great, this is very, you know, positive, and this is very enjoyable. Video games should be about having fun. If we're not having fun, if we're being force fed a message um, that doesn't make sense in the context of the game we're playing. um, So that said, I would like to hear what everybody has to say on this topic. I do believe firmly that there isn't an issue with inclusivity within gaming. It's just more so that people are not creating characters that, not just characters, but stories that represent all of these different communities of our world. So I'd like to hear what everybody has to say. Go ahead and give the video a like. If you disagree with my sentiments and what I've said, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion and let's see where the conversation leads. And hopefully we can change the minds of others. And hopefully, if there is something new that I do not know and I'm not aware of, that you can also educate me on that information as well. Thank you very much for watching and have an awesome day.